Hello, my friends. Welcome back. It is January 5th, 2019, 5:09 a.m. And this is a follow-up from the other day's video where we were talking about the source of all this moisture that's being pulled up into the U.S. and how they look like backwards hurricanes and this and that. And sure as can be, the Hurricane Center has now put a 30% chance of cyclone formation in that exact area we were talking about a couple days ago. I was not surprised to see this at all, but what I was surprised to see was the second this popped up, every weather channel on YouTube jumped on it as if this thing was going to become a major hurricane, which chances are it won't be, but I just find it a little interesting how that happens. Main concern right now, guys, believe it or not, is what's going to be happening in the Northwest and to California. And that's based off a few things. Now, one of those things being the amount of wind, and if you could read here, high wind warnings, wind advisories, high wind watches. These are all over areas of Washington, Oregon, Northern California. As you can see, gale force winds out in the Pacific. This is due to a system that is currently moving its way into the U.S., and it's going to cause a huge mess all along the West. The West is going to get pounded pretty often over the next few weeks, unfortunately. And again, a lot of this is stemming from moisture coming from the Pacific. We went into depth on this. We broke apart these three separate storms that seem to have been fueling that atmospheric river of water that is running all the way up to the northeast. And then we spoke briefly on this other system coming down near Alaska, which has been causing that little loop-de-loop deal with our El Nino jet stream going on, which is causing some severe weather way up north in the upper west. So we need to keep an eye on that. That's very important. I had a chart pulled up for you that I wanted to look at. I may have not pulled it up. All right, this might do justice. So this is what we're expecting, guys. So right here, I'll tell you when it's the first frame. Right here is first frame. So look at the amount of moisture. We're talking all the way up from all the way from Canada, basically, down to Southern California. And this is even going into Mexico, even though this chart doesn't cover the country of Mexico. You could just see that the west coast of the U.S. is about to be slammed with some very heavy winds, very packed moisture situations where we're going to get storms. We're also going to see a lot of snow in higher elevations, and that is going to come down through the Rockies. That's going to load the Rockies up, and then we may be dealing with another situation where we see this thing dip down and completely saturate the northern end of Texas. Now, Texas just went through a half-and-half situation where there was winter storm warnings and then rivers flooding on the other end of it. Louisiana got completely saturated. We had an entire strip of extreme moisture move all the way up to the northeast. That's finally making its way out. But just as that's happening, this thing on the west side here looks like it's even more of a mess. So anywhere on the west coast, if you live there, guys, be prepared, but especially on the coastlines. We're talking some very, very heavy winds here. Not necessarily caused by the little anomalies down by below the Baja region, actually. These are actually coming from closer to Alaska and down. So the threat of a hurricane hitting anywhere near the U.S. at this point, I think, is fairly low. Even though they are giving it a 30% chance of cyclone formation over 48 hours, that's not a ridiculous number, but at the same time, it's worth posting about. I don't see this developing into any sort of hurricane, at most a tropical depression, but it's just too cool out here right now. And with the movement of the water and the movement of the moisture as we were watching as it was coming up and across the U.S., if anything, this thing is expected to come into this direction and then kind of fizzle out or become part of a moisture system in this area. So just because you see these chances of cyclone formations, that does not mean there's going to be any potential hurricanes or anything like that. Of course, there is the chance of it happening, but this late in the season, it's very rare. If it does happen, hey, it'll be the talk of the town. Every channel on YouTube will be talking about it, but I just found it interesting how we talked about this a few days ago being very interesting. And then right after the National Hurricane Center posts it as a possible invest, that's when everyone's jumping out of their seats saying, oh my God, there's going to be a hurricane and this and that. And it's just not the case, guys. So you got to be careful where you get your info from. I'm not saying I'm perfect in any way, shape, or form. I am the first to admit when I make mistakes because I go straight off the data. And what the data is showing me right now is that anywhere up from Washington, where they have avalanche issues going on, all the way down to Southern California, be prepared for some nasty weather. And it's not just one wave. This is going to be a wave after wave deal. Again, this is based on just the lows and high pressures that are up by Alaska, and even in the polar area that are just whip warping our jet stream and just causing these ridiculous changes in temperature and rain in one spot and snow in another. It's just almost weather chaos, you can call it, or hashtag bipolar weather. One thing to note on that, for those of you that have been saying hashtag bipolar weather, I just noticed I've had to approve all your comments because I've had my thing set on anytime you post a hashtag or a link, it puts you into the spam folder and I have to approve the comments. So I'm going to change that up. If you guys want to make bipolar weather a thing, please, by all means. But again, this warning goes out to our friends on the West right now. You got to get ready for this because not only have those fires drenched, or not drenched, but put the ground in a position where any sort of major rainfall or even snow melt will cause landslides, and that is a big issue for the west side. So with that said, let me just double check and make sure we have not missed anything here. We went through this video already about how we saw these three separate systems form just underneath Mexico, almost in a reverse hurricane situation. We checked out the GOES imagery as we could see that system finally beginning to leave the northeast. It is wrapping around, bringing in a little bit of snow to some random areas there, but in the next few days, guys, we're going to have a lot more to talk about because there is a system, and it's included in this West Coast system that's going to move its way across the U.S., and from what I saw in Tropical Tidbits, it is not looking pretty for the Northeast come around the 9th to the 13th. So even though that's a little far out, we have some time to let that change. Keep that in mind as we make these videos over the next few days because it's going to be very important. I think I went over this, but just once again, here are your current temperatures, guys. The west central area of the U.S. seems to be getting hit the hardest with the cold weather lately. Near the Rockies, high elevation snow. And then as that begins to come this way, you're going to see more rain. But as low as that jet stream comes, we're going to see some snow again, possibly in Texas. And then the same situation we just went through. It's like deja vu. As it gets across New Orleans, we're going to see more moisture, and then everyone's going to be talking about the big strip of moisture that's going to move up to the northeast, which may in fact be one of our new or one of our first nor'easters of this year, based on its shape. I'm not going to get into tropical tidbits now, only because I just wanted to let you guys know about this 30% invest out there that everyone's been posting about. But remember, we talked about this. This has been there. We've been watching this. We talked about it possibly becoming an invest, but then dissipating quickly. Again, like I said, the main concern is the west coast of the U.S. right now, as a completely separate system is coming down from the Alaska area and may shoot in right along Northern California, and then you just see it explode into a snow situation. So this was backtracked about 16 hours ago. You could see that central pressure forcing the warmer moisture up into the northeast, and then it kind of gets cut off as it moves into the Atlantic. So, all right, guys, with that said, that's what I want to show you for tonight. That is the second video I've made today. But we'll keep an eye on this. We'll keep you posted. 30% chance over 48 hours. We'll see what happens. And here are the current temperatures. The only hopeful spots right now seem to be the coasts of the Carolinas, and then we got Florida going in there. So thank you guys so much. My phone is ringing. That is Caroline, and I will talk to you guys soon. Have a wonderful night. Good night.